Hello, good morning everyone. Thank you very much for coming. By here, I'm opening the first Search University event. I would like to first thank you all for registering to this event. It's the first time that we organize it. We'll talk a little bit more about ourselves and about our companies and about the reasons why we've organized it. Let me first tell you that search marketing on its own is a great challenge and has been very often underestimated in the market. Because for marketing people, this is considered to be far too technical, whereas for IT people, it's considered far too commercial. But it is the same challenge that we have today because in front of us, you, the audience, you are composed of marketing executives, marketing managers, marketing directors, but also IT managers and webmasters. So the objective of today is that each one of you will learn something at the end of the day, and so that we would have served as an interaction platform for us to exchange professional experience. The first part is an overview, and where I will talk about expectations. The second part is I will very briefly talk about the web crawling and the web indexing. And the third part is the most important part. That is a theoretical overview of elements that you should take into account while creating your website or while optimizing a website for search engines. And the last part is about webmasters resources. So let's go to the focus of the day. You understand that today's session, this session, is about organic search and not paid search. The next session will be presented by someone from Google Belgium, and he will talk mostly about the paid sites. So this site, we will talk now only about the natural site. So if we analyze, let's say, a search engine result page, what do we see? We see, let's say, links to Google services on the left-hand side. We see contextual links, depending on what your query is all about. We see statistical bar, always with very interesting information about your query. And then we see also integrated news results. And it's important to note that Google will show more and more results coming from different platforms, whether it's maps from Google Maps, whether it's from Google News, or whether it's from videos, which is now YouTube, and they call it universal search. Now, also a small remark here. You will notice that we will talk a lot about Google, and that we very often confuse Google with all search engines, okay? We will also mention the other search engines, especially in the interactive sessions afterwards, but we talk mostly about Google because Google is, let's say, the dominant search engine, and because it is, let's say, the most advanced, and it is, of course, the one which is the most strict and qualitative-wise in search engine optimization. And if you do the job well on Google, the job will follow with the other search engines. So I'm just saying that, yes, we will talk a lot about Google today, and perhaps confuse it with all the other search engines, which is a common mistake that professionals do as well. But if you look at a search result, you will notice that you have the title, that you have the snippets, that you have the visible URL, and that you have site links. All these elements are to be influenced with search engine optimization, all of them. And the snippet is a real bonus, because when your website has snippet, it means you have done a very good job. It means that the structure of your website is very good. Okay? Okay, let me talk as well about the size of the web. Now, the web is very big. The web is very, very, very big. Okay? A blog, let's say, a blog post from Google said more than a year ago that they're still trying to find out how big is the web. And they were talking about more than 1 trillion pages. Now, what is 1 trillion pages? It's 1,000 billion pages. But in fact, if you think of it, the web is infinite. It's totally infinite. Because let me give you a very simple example. Imagine you have a website, and on your website there's a web calendar. And on the web calendar, you have a link that says, go to the next day. So every time you click, you go on the next day. So theoretically, this website has an infinite number of pages. So basically, the size of the web is irrelevant. What is important, and that is mainly the challenge of search engines, whether it's Yahoo, or Bing, or Google, it's to crawl the web and to find the interesting pages for the users and then index them. Now, what is crawling? Crawling, in fact, is a software used by search engines on which they would look for new pages, or they would look for the pages that have been modified on the web, create a copy, and then prepare the work of the indexing. The most famous, let's say, example of a web crawler is the one from Google, which is called the Google bot. So how does it work in practice? You have this software from Google, which is the Google bot, which goes through the web. When you submit a new website, when you create a new website, you don't even need to submit it. When they discover new links, it would crawl through the web, and it would create, let's say, a copy of the content of the pages. It would also transform PDF pages in HTML, because that's much more simple for search engines to read. And then when they find that the content is good enough, then they will index it. And index it, it's like you are part of a directory. It's like you are part of a telephone book. Here you're part of the telephone book of Google, which classifies, in fact, your page. Pages are indexed, and it classifies your page to a set of keywords that has to do with keyword density that we will see afterwards, with a subject, with a ranking, and with a certain authority on the page. So what you all want is that you want this process to be as fast as possible with your website, and you all want not only to be indexed, but to be indexed very qualitatively. Okay, so let me first introduce to you the Webmaster Tools. So the Webmaster Tools is in fact a tool that is offered for free by Google to webmasters. This Webmaster Tools, let's say, has a lot of very interesting elements. Like you see here a message center where Google communicates with you or with the webmasters, where you see as well a lot of information, statistics, graphs, etc., suggestions on how to better optimize your website. So how does it work? You need to verify your website. And your website, basically Google wants to make sure that you own the website or that you at least control it. And two ways to verify your websites. The first way is by inserting a copy of a meta tag into the main page of in fact your website, to in fact the home page. And if you do that, if you are able to, of course, to alter the home page of your website, it means that you control the website, that you own it, and then you can have the verification and all the information and the services of the Webmaster Tools. A second way, which I find much easier, is to insert an HTML file, okay, on the root on the root folder of your website, and it's much easier because every Webmaster Tools has a Google account, has an account, and it is your personal account, and with this personal account you have one single HTML file that you can use for all the websites that you verify. It's especially good for agencies working with many websites. And by the way, you can have 500 websites registered per webmaster's account. So it's quite a lot. If you need more, you simply set up more webmasters accounts. And that's an example of interesting statistics that you can get with Webmaster Tools, such as for which keywords do you score the most, the best, which keywords bring you to your website, and what are the positions of these keywords, and what is the percentage of impressions that you get. So very interesting material on the webmasters tool. Okay, now we go through the main phase, of course, of this session. And basically, when you create a website, or when you decide to optimize a website, the planning phase is crucial. It's crucial, of course, for your business. It's crucial in order for you to make it work, but it's also crucial in terms of search engine optimization. Because at the end of the day, you want visitors to see your website. You want visitors to visit your website. So what is your unique content? What are your unique selling points? Here I'm referring more to your business case, because after all, that's the first point. Your business needs to work correctly, and your business needs to be attractive and competitive. So that's aside from search engine optimization, which comes on top of it. But what is your objective? Is it more traffic, branding, conversions? And of course, that will all depend on how will you optimize, but also how will you create your website. We'll talk about domain names. We will talk about geographical target. We will talk about where to host. We will talk here about site architecture, URLs, and sitemap and robots.txt. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about domain, geotargeting, and hosting. The first thing, of course, that you want to make sure is that do you want your own domain name, www.mycompany.com, okay, or do you use, let's say, other platforms like, for example, MySpace, Blogspot, Facebook, perhaps for a specific marketing campaign? If we talk about that, okay, you don't have your own authority and you don't create on your own historical data, and you don't control it. Most of you will go for their own domains or have already got their own domains. These questions are very important in terms of SEO, and there is not a single rule, there is not a single truth. Every situation needs to be looked at very differently. Of course, if you focus just on one market, yes, that would be a good idea. If you focus on one market which is complex like Belgium, this might be a very good idea. If you work with a lot of markets, either you go through, let's say, local domains on every market, or you work with subdomains. Of course, the fact of having local domains everywhere is always better, because then you have content which is applicable to to users in this market, but it will also mean a lot more work. And so then the question is, do you use a generic top-level domain, so like .com, .net? If you use a .com.net, it's mostly if you want to try to target more markets. Let's say that my company is about selling beamers, and that you want to sell beamers everywhere. Okay, then you rather go for .com, because if you go for .be, you concentrate on a Belgian market. So if you concentrate on local markets, perhaps you want a country code top-level domain, which are these ones. Now, it's also important to choose, will you go for www or a non-w? In this example, there's a non-w. And it is perhaps a detail, but in terms of search engine optimizations, these are considered two different domains. So basically, they cannot have duplicate content. They should refer one to another, and basically you need to choose one of them. But that's really up to you. That's more, let's say, from a marketing or an IT perspective. Now, if you want to focus on a geographical location, let's say that you want to focus on Belgium, and you decide to go for a .be, it automatically focuses on Belgium. It means that your website will get prioritized on google.be. Okay? But let's say that you go for .com, then there is a second level of setting your geographical targeting, which is very important. And the second level is to set this at in the webmaster's tool. The webmaster tools gives you the possibility of even registering every subfolder to focus on a different market, or every subdomain to focus on a different market. So that's also a great aspect of the webmaster tool. And the third level is your web server IP. Now, it used to be like that in the past, that, that you had to have your hosting in Belgium to be better indexed on google.be. But it's not the case anymore. And it's not the case anymore thanks to the complexities of Europe. Google has changed it and has specifically created this layer where you can change the setting in the webmaster tools. So there's a lot of Belgian companies, by the way, that are hosted in France. All Belgian companies are hosted in the Netherlands. And hosting prices, by the way, are much cheaper in these countries than in Belgium. Now, of course, now when you host, of course, hosters are going to try to sell a dedicated server for your website only. And if you have a very large website, yes, it might be a good idea to go for dedicated servers. But if you have smaller websites, shared servers are also a good thing. You will not suffer from bad neighborhoods. In other words, if people are sharing the same server than you, which you don't know, by the way, but theoretically, if they're doing some bad things in terms of SEO, or they're badly ranked, or they, or for example, they use all kinds of techniques, then you will not suffer from that. But think of your uptime, because basically that's an important factor. Now, you would see that more and more SEO is in line with usability. So Google is going to look at your website in usability terms more and more. So do users find what they want easily? Is your site browsable on mobile devices? That's a big one. And more Google is going to add even more criteria about that, because people are going around with these smartphones more and more. And even in some markets, penetration is raising. Easy navigations like breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs is to always show you where you are on the website. Or for example, use a search box or logical category navigation. Homepage to child page to homepage. So in other words, keep the important pages high up in the hierarchy. Secure your private content. That is very important. We'll talk about that. Keep important pages well linked from the homepage, and merge similar pages, of course, because you want them to be better ranked, and you want the linking to be centralized to these pages. URLs is one of the most important factors of SEO, because URLs is in fact all about your site structure. So therefore, structure your URL in a good way. Now, have your keywords in the URL, and have them very high up in the hierarchy. Even in the domain name, it's a very good idea to have it there as well, in some cases. Now, therefore, the file names of your URL should be descriptive. In this example, 3G iPhone, but separate them with a hyphen, because search engines consider a hyphen as a space. So do not use an underscore, and do not use a plus point. Okay? From an IT perspective, that's something that Google hasn't really resolved. So underscores are not considered as being spaces. That's one of the complaints that we can do to Google, but therefore use hyphens, very important. Consider lowercase URLs, because of course robots.txt is case sensitive. The best is in fact to rewrite the URLs. Instead of having a URL which is /1234 session ID 5678, is to have a rewriting of the URL. Of course, this is allowed, and where you give it specific names and where you create a structure on your website. But if you do have dynamic URLs, then use standard practices. And with standard practices, websites will be able to understand what's on your page, like in this example, where all the items, okay, use the same standard practice. Okay? Now, remove, of course, session IDs. Not only that it's not good for your users, because it's not very user-friendly, but it is of no use for search engines. Search engines basically want to know what's going on the page. What is the page is talking about? How can they best index it so that they can so that they can generate the best results, of course, for the users looking for your keywords. And then let me introduce you again webmaster tools, which communicates more and more with webmasters. In this case, it says you have too many, you have an extremely high number of URLs, which might be considered as spamming. So it's Webmaster Tools in this case is warning you. Now, what is a sitemap? A sitemap is a list of URLs. It's very good to implement this on your website, basically because what you're doing is that you're helping search engines, and they all use the same practice, so you help, but basically you help more Google to organize their crawling work. And what you can do is that you can also introduce when was the page last modified, how many times do you want, or do you want the crawls to pass through your pages, because how many times, let's say, is it daily, weekly, monthly, that you do changes? And of course, what is the priority of this page? Now, the best, of course, is to have dynamically generated sitemaps. All advanced CMS has that, is that basically you implement it once, and then you don't need to touch it anymore, because as soon as you will modify a page, the sitemap will be modified automatically. As soon as you will add a page, sitemap will be modified directly. So it's good to have it in HTML, but for search engines in XML. That's the best one. And a bonus, we'll talk about it afterward. If you have a separate sitemap for images or videos, especially now that Google is going through universal search, it's even better. Now, what are robots.txt files? Robots.txt is that you don't want search engines to crawl certain parts of your website. For example, some hidden parts, hidden, of course, from your users, or from some secret or confidential parts, or let's say, shopping carts, login pages, in this case, administrators. But be aware, hackers look at your robots.txt file to see what are the sensitive pages. So you need to find a balance as well, and not write all your secrets there, because that's a public page, like most of the web. But it's good to use robots.txt to disallow certain parts of your website, and then all search engines, it's a common practice, will not crawl these sections of your website. And it's also a best practice to mention the location of your sitemaps here. Once again, you can test it with Webmaster's tool. Okay, my part is finished.